you. Great to be here with all of you guys. I'm going to share a little bit about the journey we've been on at Michaels. Hopefully most of you are familiar with us. We are an arts and crafts retailer. We really exist to serve all creative people. And we have our core stores and site business, which is what I'm going to talk about today. We also have our Maker Place business, which we just launched about a month ago, which is our handmade marketplace. So lots of exciting things happening. So where were we 5 years ago? Really where the team was I think a very traditional place for retail. Very heavy in the media mix in terms of print, linear TV, and very limited measurement. So there was no CDP, there was no even marketing mix modeling, there was no LTA modeling, no mobile attribution. So really the team was still in a very, very analog place. Over the last 5 years, under the leadership of our media leader, who I get to share all her great work today, her name's Kathleen Moeller, and our agency Camelot, they really started with getting first measurement foundations. So we stood up our CDP, which we do through an external partner. We have monthly marketing mix. We have all the last touch attribution, the platform data flowing in. We have external kind of third-party data from a number of sources, including Epsilon, to help give us a view on some competitive spend. And then the team was really able to use that better customer understanding to inform a much more performance-oriented, much more data-driven approach to our media. And it's worked really well. So if you look at where Michaels was in 2019, you can see there just 36% of what the company was doing was in digital. Most of that was search. And then you can see where we are today. It's 88%. We still do a little bit of linear TV, which is what that 12% is, most especially this time of year. So like Lisa, you would see us on the Hallmark movies. Hallmark Channel is a big place that our audience shows up. But we really are very digital in all that we're doing. We are able to use our first-party data and use lookalikes and kind of have that help inform what we're doing. And what's been really exciting to see is the green line there is our marketing contributed revenue. It's actually up 64%. Our marketing budget is down about 14%, from the start to finish here. So the team definitely has been able to do much more with less. And our ROAS nearly doubled. It's up 91% from where we started. So really the team did a great job in the transformation. And I'll show a little bit of the highlights of how we got there and then speak to where we are now. So some of the things, looking sort of by channel, starting with social. So Michaels moved really fast on some of the innovation through COVID and beyond that came in social. So we moved very fast into shoppable ads on Meta. We were part of the shoppable alpha on TikTok. And actually that very quickly became our highest performing ad unit type across all of what we were doing in social. So now it's part of every campaign that we do. Pinterest is a big place. If you think about our customer, they're all creative people. Pinterest is a big place to go for inspiration. We were quick to move on these immersive pins, so that the example here is one from our holiday collection last year, where you could sort of span the room, and then there were pins on various products, and then even some projects where you could look at the pin and then get connected to a supplies list to make it. We also tried the lenses from Snapchat last year, which was an expensive investment. We did see 2 million impressions on this. The average engagement time was over a minute, so it was a great way to get engagement, especially with a younger audience. And we continue to try to be amongst the first to raise our hand to try some of these new things because we've seen a lot of them work well. We've also innovated in video. Creator ads work really well for us, again, given who our customer is. The team started really getting into more of those creator ads and longer form content several years ago. One that was very successful was a holiday piece we did with Lexi Hensler, if you're familiar with her. I know my teenage daughter is very familiar with her. And one more recently that's running now, actually with Pearson, who is sort of a collaborator with Lexi Hensler. And then we do lots of different cut downs and formats on that of 30s, 15s, 10s, 6s, like all sorts of things to try to get as much exposure in OLV as we can. And then CTV has been a huge area of growth for us. We love this channel because we have a good ability to use our first-party audiences to find lookalikes and to span our audience across platforms. We do a lot of this through OneView, which helps us find our audience in different places and get some scale there. We've been very early to adopt new ad-supported tiers with Netflix, with Disney Plus recently. and always looking for new measurement tools to help us just get better on the targeting, to find our audience in the right places and sort of optimize the spend. And then search. Search is a huge channel for us, both in terms of the more brand, non-brand search, but then also we've shifted quite a bit to PLA. That's a major, major part of our overall media mix. We were very early adopters of PMAX, and then very quickly shifted nearly all of what we were doing in that space to PMAX. We were actually the first retailer to do curbside PLA with Google during the pandemic. And then we partnered also during the pandemic early on with Sky, leveraging Budget Navigator and pairing with Google Shopping to really get much more out of our budget. We saw about 150% increase in our ROI in doing that. So lots of great innovation that had given Michaels a lot of success as we kind of went from 2019 through to 2022. But then we got to 2023, and we saw the overall customer health of the business was not looking as strong as it could be. So while we're sort of high-fiving that the ROAS, it looks really strong, it's continued to grow year after year, we were doing more with less, as we took a step back and looked at just the customer health in terms of how big is our audience, how frequently are people coming in, we saw that we were actually losing more people than we were sort of refilling at the top of the funnel. Some of that was COVID related. Our category had a big boom, as you'd probably expect in 2020, 2021, but it wasn't only that. We're also seeing leakage to lots of our competitors. Obviously, we have traditional competitors in our space like a Hobby Lobby or a Joann's, but then we also have Amazon and Walmart and Target, and lots of different players who play in parts of our space, even like a Home Goods would play in the decor space, so they'd be in our search auctions, for example. And so what we saw is we were leaking too many customers, so while we had a shrinking group of people who were increasingly loyal, we really needed to kind of take a step back and figure out how we could get back to a more growth-driven agenda. So we created a learning agenda to do this. As Lisa said, we rebranded the brand in total in August. So we have a new creative campaign that I won't talk about today, but that has sort of helped to fuel some of what we're doing here. But then we looked at the media mix at the same time and looked at how we were thinking about our targeting and the way we were using data to then get the new branding in combination with the right media strategy to help us appeal to more people and get them to come to Michaels more often. We didn't want to go sort of old school of just like take the reach up, and frankly we don't have the budget to do that. I wasn't getting more money to do any of this, so we had to find ways to be more efficient with the spend that we had and wring more value out of every dollar that we spent. So the team created a really robust learning agenda at the start of the year to really go figure out where the pockets of growth would be and where we could do it in a way that was ROI positive. So a few things we did. We shifted objectives. So looking within the campaigns that we were running, obviously we're retailers, so we're very conversion centric in a lot of what we're doing in paid digital. And we just slid the scale back a bit more to have more of our campaigns be reach based. So especially in social, this has served us really incredibly well. We looked at audience shifts. While we have great first-party data, we have good abilities to do lookalikes, we sort of broadened the view to bring in more competitive and interest-based targeting. Again, it wasn't just about like taking the reach up, in total and in a vacuum. It was really trying to reach more of the potential audience of creative people. So we were trying to find other ways, contextual and data signals to help us find those next best groups of customers. And then we played with our channel shifts. So we do have a marketing mix we get every month. That is a helpful 10,000-foot view for us to understand what channels are working on macro objectives. And we had a good view of which channels work better to bring new customers in. So we invested a bit more in those channels as well. And then we shifted the types of ad units that we've been doing. Again, looking for ones that could help with some more of those top of funnel objectives in a way that would still be ROI positive. The precision targeting was a huge piece of this because, again, we don't have the budget to go just like mass blast, what we're doing. So we tried some things, some worked, some didn't work, but some of the highlights that worked really well. One, we are still a very physical stores business. More than 90% of our business still flows through brick and mortar. And store radius targeting has been really helpful, using that to help even with our video buys 3 to 5 miles around where our store locations are. We've now actually scaled that across our entire national buy because it worked so well and so quickly. We also went market by market, so we span most of the US, and obviously some markets are performing better than others. We really leaned on the Google data to help us learn our way into this using BDI and CDI data, and really found those sweet spots where there was high category demand, but we had a gap in brand demand. And we were able to really quickly see a 3% lift in those markets that we did that. So again, we're scaling that not across every market, but being smart where we have markets that fit that profile to go and just capture more of the demand that frankly was already there. And in our running a national approach to it, we probably weren't getting full advantage that we could in some of these. And some of them were big markets, like Seattle, for example, would be one. A lot of the West Coast markets were opportunities where we were able to go and just really quickly capture more share. We've also leaned more into competitive conquesting. This is something we've done a little bit of, and obviously we use competitive signal to help us build our audiences, but we've gotten a little bit sharper in how we're approaching this and the tools that we're using to get more aggressive in certain channels on that. And then looking for lapsing and leaking customers. So some of this was in our paid channels. Obviously we have a big CRM program that helps to do that as well. So as we move to more of this strategy, we've been able to significantly increase our impressions, and I will tell you my budget is flat to down versus last year. But for Q4, our impressions, now that we've scaled this strategy, are up 40% versus year ago, which is great. We see the ROAS in our performance channels also up 5%. If you look at like social, OLV, CTV, it's up double digits. So it's been really nice that we've been able to drive the growth. And frankly, I sort of set the stage with our CEO and our CFO that as we go to more reach-based, the ROI might go down, and we should all be prepared for that. And then because I think we took a more fine-tuned approach to it, we actually were able to not only hold it flat, but actually to grow it a little bit, which has really been sort of a wonderful silver lining that's letting our dollars go much further. And then looking at some of the actual business results, which ultimately is what we all want to see, is, okay, this is great within the marketing ecosystem, but are you actually seeing the business move as a result? So very hot off the presses. I don't have the actual numbers here because we're obviously still in Q4, but as we look at the way the season is sort of starting and continuing for us, Black Friday through the weekend of Black Friday and then Cyber Monday, we had positive traffic, like significantly positive traffic on all of the days, and again, with a flat to down overall marketing budget, which has been great to see. So lots still that we're continuing to learn all the time, so much more that we can and need to do as we go into 2024. But it's been a really fun ride. The team has done such a nice job of being intentional, being disciplined about the architecting of the plans, measuring, and then reacting quickly, scaling where it works, turning stuff off where it didn't work, and it served us quite well. So that's what I have. I think we're going to do Q&A.
Yes.
I'm right on that?
First, a big hand from Andy.
Thank you.
I mean, it's just regular. Okay, does anyone have a question for Mandy? Just a reminder, if you could say your full name and your company before you ask your question.
Hey, Mandy. This is Eugene Agaki, Director of SEM at LendingTree. And with all the growth and the channel testings, marketing mix testing, and just the whole 9 yards, right, to make this change, I was wondering, what was the threshold for the organization to test these things out, and how many, like, either by duration or by budgeting, like how much were you given or how much time were you given before you were, like, you had to give a result saying like this is working or this is not working? And the reason why I asked that is because at my company we're trying to do a lot of initiatives as well too, but I personally think that we tend to chicken out pretty quickly. Like if things aren't working within 2 to 3 days, we're like, it's not profitable, let's get out. But definitely some of these stuff that you did, like social, Performance Max, CTV, they're probably not going to give you positive ROI on day one. So I'm wondering, like, yeah, how many days or was the budget like allowed for you guys? Like, what was the threshold there?
Yeah, so it did depend a little bit on what we were testing. So in general, I would say most of our tests were about 4 weeks, and we would pick a number of markets. So the nice thing is, as part of my organization, I also have the data science organization. So I have a data science team that could partner with the media team to architect the tests, both in terms of first picking the right markets, and we never did just one because just stuff can happen. Like we could pick New York, and then a hurricane comes, and we have all sorts of weather noise, and actually that did happen, where we had some significant stuff on the East Coast during one of our timeframes this summer. Some of the search things we could see much more quickly. So I'll give you like the BDI, CDI example. There was some of our executives had another theory, which was like, we need to go after our top drag markets. So meaning if we just looked at the pure financial comp, what markets were sort of dragging our overall comp sales down. They may or may not have fit the BDI, CDI picture that we had. So we had some markets running like that. We had some that sort of followed more of like the Google quadrant of BDI, CDI, which worked well. Those we saw really within a week. You could see the pack starting to separate, and we were able to make some choices more quickly. But I sort of set the expectation with, we did a wave of tests in each Q1, Q2, and Q3, that it would be a 4-week test, control match, minimally with like 2 to 4 markets, so that we could get a pretty clean read. And then I would share updates with our executive team, usually about halfway through. Like I said, for search, we could move a little bit faster, but for sure, all the stuff we were doing in video and social, we set the expectation. Also because our business is seasonal and promotional, so in some cases it was like, the ones we did in the spring, I wanted to cross a sort of normal, less promotional 2-week period with a highly promotional 2-week period to just make sure we were getting sort of a representative read before we took stuff to sort of broader scale across our plan.
Anyone else?
Hi, Brant Schmitz, NBC Universal. So the 40% increase year over year, was most of that coming from those new social channels you mentioned, the Snap and the TikTok, et cetera? Or where were you seeing a lot of those impressions coming from?
So
channel specific?
Yeah, actually the biggest places we saw the lift actually was Meta, because we were running a lot of consideration and conversion types of campaigns, and we just slid some, not all. Actually, we kept most of the conversion ones intact to reach campaigns. Obviously, that helps you from a CPM point of view, so we could get a lot more reach for our dollars. And then I would also say within Google, so like OLV is probably other place, and then CTV that we scaled impressions more. We have been doing the TikTok and Snap. That has been pretty consistent. Pinterest has been a very consistent partner for us for years and years now. So we continue to invest more in those, but we were kind of doing that anyways. As part of our strategy as we relaunch the brand is to bring younger customers into our brand. So we had sort of already placed the bet, I guess, which I don't even think is really a bet. I think it's like a mandate to be in those places. So we actually did not change as much in those channels as we did, frankly, more within like the Google and Meta universes.
Anyone else? I actually wanted to just, because remembering from a lot of your brand refresh to, again, sort of attract those younger audience, like you just said, and with all the different channels you're using, and where does creative come into play? I know, as you mentioned, with the refresh, that played a part in the success you're seeing. But when you're moving forward and all these different channels, and how are you looking at creative in terms of driving performance?
Yeah, so the creative piece is huge. Where Michael's campaign, and I'll use that word loosely, was previously, is we did not really have a holistic brand system. So there was something that was called the brand campaign, which was mainly just video, primarily linear TV and CTV spots around holiday or sort of key moments. And then we are highly promotional, so then you had a cadence of all the promotional activity that was running. And the team, this was a little before my time, but the team was basically rebranding the promotion like every 2 weeks, and with a different look, tone, feel. So you had brand work that kind of looked one way, you had promo that looked a different way, and even changed all the time. And I think as we would have gone to a wider media ecosystem, and frankly, to get into automation, we could not have done it in the old system because it would have looked like a crazy hodgepodge of a brand. Part of what we wanted to do, as we set out on the rebrand about a year ago now, was to really create a brand system that was, one, under a cohesive strategy and the points of difference that we want to stand for, and thus communicate in our overarching marketing plan. But then, as important as that actually was the design system. And our creative agency, OKRP, did a brilliant job of really understanding all of the jobs to be done that we have creatively, of everything from, frankly, like a PMAX asset that we're going to use that's just like a very small thing but needs to look like our brand, tons of email, and our email program is a little bit complicated with lots of modules in it, all the way up to like a holiday brand spot. And the system that we have now has a lot of flexibility, but also very clear guardrails. We're now, and I know we're not here to talk about email, but email is a really good example of this, where modules can be coming in from different places. Some of them are very automated, but the email that you're looking at as a customer feels cohesive because we have a tight design system that makes it kind of happen that way. With lots of guardrails around the way promotions are shown and products are shown, the colors we use, the fonts that we use, which is kind of basic. But I think that's, I think in my role as the CMO, the two pieces needing to come together, I think I can't underscore enough the importance of that, because if we had not thought about the creative side and then tried to go, I mean, even so we have a massive social presence, and that content's getting created in a lot of different ways. If we did not have a clear brand system, it would look like just a crazy hodgepodge of stuff. And especially, I mean, obviously we lean into platform first, so you saw kind of what we're doing on YouTube, like what we do on TikTok is very different than what we do on Snap, but we need enough of that consistency so you know it's a Michaels ad and we get the attribution.
Got it. Well, thank you, Mandy. You were awesome. Everyone, Mandy, another big round of applause.
Thank you.